Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, organics of all ages, I'm Double R, and welcome back to the Masterclass of Character Creation and Development. You are in the last two classes of this semester? Course? Whatever. The last one, of course, will be, premise, development, evolution. It'll be the triple whammy that I've talked about before in roleplay sense. That will pretty much be the review overall. But this episode, per se, this class, is over implementation. Implementation is a make or break for your character. Even if you follow this entire series and you do everything else 100% correct, you get a contract, you cross your T's, you dot your I's, you make sure the characters that you make belong to you. You decide to use your inspiration of certain things instead of appropriating other characters, and you decide that your messaging will be nice and subtle and it won't come off like yeah, that. So with all that said, with all that down, how can you mess up in implementation? Well, that's what we're talking about today. The definition of implementation, pretty much to implement something, is this. Pretty straightforward. A basic definition to put into a situation. I'm going to give you a quick demi-story that I've already told before. Just work with me. It will make perfect sense here. Gemini Man is an original IP or intellectual property. It was developed from the ground up. It is not attached to any establishing IP or establishing information or world or whatever. It's its own thing. We follow? Cool. The development was lined up perfectly. Everything went smoothly. There was no controversy. There was nothing that was holding it back. Then it came time for implementation. Or in the case of a movie, the trailer. You are now trying to put forth this original IP to the public, to have them take interest. Well, the trailer did not do as well as they hoped. In fact, it made the movie look a little boring. So of course, some people went to go see it, and most of the responses and most reviews came out as there's long droughts between the action, which makes it boring. Yes, you can have a penalty for too much action in the movie, or too little action in a movie, depending on the feel of the movie itself. Why does this matter? Well, the end result is Gemini Man failed. Now, of course, there are people who like it, there are people who hate it. Whatever, it happens. But overall, it is considered a failure. The same can be said about characters that are being implemented into an established universe or IP. A failure of implementation, for example, will be your character that you developed, that you designed, that you created. All that hard work you did to create this character, all that energy that you put into it, and you think this is going to be a great character, people are going to latch on and they're going to love it. If you implement it the wrong way, people go, that's a Mary Sue, Gary Stu, whatever. Example of this, the Disney Star Wars trilogy. The character of Rey. Even if she is supposed to be very powerful in the Force, even if she's supposed to have all these things lined up because she's a scavenger, nothing is really explained about her history. Well, we're waiting to make that a twist. No, stop. You have to have something there. Well, she's really tough and she stayed on the planet by herself. Yeah, and ask any martial artist to use a spear, a staff, and a sword, and you're going to see wildly different fighting techniques. Especially a lightsaber, which has no real counterbalance to it. It's literally a hilt. If you spin it the wrong way, you're cutting something off. Just saying. Well, maybe the Force directed her to do it. Nah. Maybe if she had a deconstruction skill of the Force, where she can see a power and magically recreate it in her own version. Fine. But again, it wasn't explained, so null and void. Not a fun look. You don't want that to happen. The same event happened to Riri Williams. But in Riri Williams' case, the failure of implementation went against rule number 1. Rule number 1, when you are trying to implement something, never outshine the master. In Riri Williams' case, everything she did was better than Iron Man. Everything she did. She used less scraps to make the Iron Man suit of her own. She had no setbacks about it. She was able to do it, no problem. She is far smarter than Tony Stark. She is a genius and somehow still in normal high school. Because reasons. And people started calling Bananarama bullshit on that. Just how it went, just how it happened. Why? Because the character was outshining the master. Meanwhile, Rey, the Mary Sue, and it's only the Mary Sue in this case because they did cardinal sin number 2. The error, number 2, the second rule, don't do this, failure to explain anything about a character. Oddly enough, Riri Williams avoided rule 2. They made sure to tell you at least something about her. It wasn't a good backstory, but it gave at least something. The character of Rey, what was her backstory? Her parents abandoned her on this planet. Oh, and she lived by herself and survived. Yeah. Okay. And of course, to fix that, Disney immediately started pushing out books. Hey, read these and you'll catch up. Yeah, because most normal people who wanted to watch a movie also want to read War and Peace in the process. Good going. Organics. The point stands. Rule 1, don't outshine the master. Rule 2, give at least some backstory so people can put in perspective the situation. If you wait too long to give a backstory, well, we know how well that goes. But why do I bring this up? Because as you can tell, these are two characters that are considered divisive. A lot of people are considering them failures of character because it is a failure of implementing the character. Even if the creator had the greatest ideas for both these characters. If they had the greatest ideas, that's fine. But they implemented them wrong. And thus, the majority of the crowd did not take to them. That is the lesson here for implementation. You can have everything lined up, all your ducks in a row. You have followed this series perfectly to the letter, and you made the perfect character that you think the masses and the millions will love. But if you implement them wrong, all that goodwill, all that love, all that affection that you think your character would get crashes and burns. Why? Because like Gemini Man and the trailer, that character has no safety net. They have nothing established. There's no way people to go, I like this character. You are literally banking the character on their first appearance and hoping beyond hope that the trailer of the first appearance, mind you, of your new character in an established IP, you are hoping somehow your new character in their premiere, in their trailer, will magically get the people's attention. But you have to remember rule 1 and 2. Because if you outshine the master, they're going to hate you for it. If you don't give any backstory in general, they're going to not believe the character at all. Now I'm going to give a quick demi example of what I mean by this, and then class will be dismissed. Let us take, for example, you want to implement someone to replace Superman. You want to make Superior Ultra or some bullcrap like that. But we'll just call him SU. Okay? For the sake of argument. And he happens to be a black Asian dude. For the sake of argument. And something happened to Superman in your version of the series. And Superior Ultra will be called Superman. for some reason, if you are going to do blunt implementation, if you are going to do that, then you better hit Rule 2 hard as a mofo. What I mean by that is when you start the series off, you might want to go like Ferris Bueller's Day Off or anything with a narration, even if it's by the character themselves. Have some sort of heavy narration and start it off in an action scene where it shows, hey, this has already been going on for a hot minute. For example, Superior Ultra is holding up part of a building while something's shooting at him from the side. Have the little narration boxes pop up. Hi, I know you may not know me. My friends used to call me the Superior Ultra, but my name is David Frank. And you're probably wondering how I wound up in this situation. Well, let me explain. Flip the page and it's a flashback to explain the situation and give history on the character. This way people are getting caught up in the first issue. If you're going to do blunt implementation, that's probably the best way to do it because this gives people a way to at least connect to the character. Okay, here's the backstory, here's what's going on. By the time they pick up issue 2, it's either finishing the backstory or it's picking up where they left off, looking like the start of issue 1. But instead of the narration of, I'm David Frank and yada yada blah blah blah, instead of all that, he goes, oh yeah, I need to stop daydreaming and do my job, and then have him go right into the action sequence. Something like that, to where at least the first issue, the first comic, at least covers the character to where they go, okay, we see what's going on. We understand what's going on a little bit more. But we would like to know what happened to Clark. But at that point, you've already established this guy's taken over for Clark, and more information will come up about, guess what? The Master, the lead, the original person that was supposed to be what the comic's based on. Superman. Make sure you keep bringing that up as a reference. Again, does it show that the character is outshining them? No. Your new character is not outshining the Master. The new character is just doing his job. And he's trying to figure out why he's in this situation, and you got a little bit of a history so people can attach to the character. That also being said, let your character have some reverence for the person they're quote-unquote replacing or being with. Hey, I'm working with Batman. I'm taking the place of Robin while he's injured. This is like almost like a dream come true. I heard about how awesome Bruce is, but good Lord, I did not know it was like this, or something like that. Something, anything, to where the customer, the reader can go, I can kind of attach to this guy, or girl, whatever. I can kind of attach to them. I can see where they're coming from. That is what you want to do in implementation. You want the customer, you want the reader, you want the person watching your movie, you want all of this. You want this to line up and you want them to go, I can identify with this person at least on some degree. And this is where the problem with the messaging pops up. People who want to push agendas go heavy on the messaging and they push everything likable about a character away. And that is where the first major problem comes in for them, which ruins the implementation. Are we following? Are we good now? Do we understand the situation? Cool. Okay. So now that I've given a little basic example and I've given the basic rules, rule 1 of course being don't outshine the master, pretty straightforward, and rule 2, give at least some sort of history so people have a chance to connect to the character. Because remember, you are implementing a new character into a series where the character does not exist. And if you want people to like the character, you got to give them something to like. And if you're going to just throw messages out there instead and hope that will do it, that's not going to do it. Trust me. So I'm Double R. I'm out. Y'all have fun. Y'all have a good day. And for role players, role play on, for writers, have fun.